Here we go. Alrighty. Welcome everybody to She's of Love. And today, oh my gosh, words. Today we have the wonderful Nancy Assad on once again, which is really exciting. I always love it when we have guests on multiple times because I feel like after a couple episodes we're all best friends and we can talk about basically everything and like we can go to wild, crazy places with
Yeah,
our
we go deeper
conversation.
each time, don't we? We go
Yeah,
deeper each time. Yeah.
yeah. So the topic for today is courage over comfort.
Mm,
And I actually really love this because I think I don't know, I think it's a real testament to one's own like soul and determination and who they are as a human to kind of face things and be courageous instead of just sitting at home or choosing the comfortable option in and that like comes in so many different ways, whether it's speaking up for yourself against adversity or sometimes it's not speaking up and like it really kind of depends on the situation and where you're at in your own life. But
mm.
yeah, it's such a broad topic. So I don't know really where to go from there, where to start.
Well, I
Um,
think I think courage over comfort, or for me, the definition of that is to be authentic. And
Yeah.
we are in a society in our cultures that we're not encouraged to be authentic and to really what Brene Brown calls, because Brene Brown is someone that I've been researching for a while now, um, getting rid of our armory, really dropping down our armory that we put up from when we were a child. And that could happen in any circumstance. As a kid, could you could have put that armory on around your peers, around your teachers. You could have been told something. It could be anything that had happened in your life. And we pick that armory, we put it on, and we carry through our lives that way. Many of us marry with that armory on. Many of us have children with that armory on. And we struggle a lot to take that armory off. And that's where vulnerability comes in. We choose to be vulnerable means that we're choosing to be authentic, which means we're choosing courage over comfort.
Mm.
So that is
Yeah,
my kind of
100%.
definition of it.
Yeah.
So it has,
And
it's definitely a journey. I have to tell you, it doesn't happen overnight. Um, I've been doing this for the last 2 years, really, since I've done the Love Yourself, Heal Your Life workshop, and I became a teacher of it. It really takes a lot of courage to get out and drop that armory because many times you just want to close. And that's what happens. Your heart closes. You don't want to be in that environment. And it's easy to go to comfort because comfort means I'm safe. Whereas being a little bit open each time and willing to drop that armory in it and embrace vulnerability because there is such beautiful things on the other side of being vulnerable and authentic. And a lot of people don't talk about that. They think about, oh, it's
mm,
shame comes up for them. They have a lot of issues, in trusting people. But that's the beauty of being vulnerable and authentic. We can work through all those and they come to the surface quite often. We don't realize that we're carrying shame or we don't realize that we do have trust issues or there is betrayal. And we work through those um, to find ourselves. It's really an inner journey of healing. And of course, it's always, always, always starts with self love. So, yeah, definitely
and
a
that's what
journey.
we're about. We're about self-love here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I find that the title Courage Over Comfort, I love that because I think being comfortable can be we can get into an addictive state with that. It's like this, you know, I've done it. I'm guilty of it every day where I will choose, and I say this to Juliette all the time, don't choose to move away from fear. Don't live your life with that as your baseline. Move towards the things that you want rather than away from the things that you don't want. And I think that it can, when you are addicted to comfort, you tend to move away from things that you don't want,
Mm,
rather than, because that doesn't take much courage, because
that's correct.
oh, that's scary over there, so I'm not going to do that. If you were to move towards the things that you do want in your life, you have to take a chance and be brave sometimes. And it takes vulnerability to get down to the core of things. If that's something that, like, in your relationships, you want deep relationships, you want loving relationships with people, that takes trust. And if you want those things, you have to run the gauntlet of trust to get to those deep relationships with people. And I think that's what takes the courage. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to choose my comfort zone of going away from the things that I'm afraid of, moving away from those all the time. And I don't care where I end up. I can end up wherever I end up. I just don't want to be over there with that, because that's scary. And that's not taking responsibility. That's not taking charge of your life. And we're not living consciously when we do that.
Mm,
And
That's
I'm
right.
constantly reminding myself, choose to move towards the things that I want, even if it's scary, even if it means I have to change something in my life to do it. And it's really difficult. Like, it sounds like a simple thing, move towards the things that you want. I mean, first of all, you have to know what you want. And sometimes that's really difficult to actually know what it is that you want out of life, or like, you need to know yourself to be able to do that. And then take the steps that you need to take to achieve those things. And I know for myself, I've spent many years of my life moving away from things that I'm afraid of, that I don't want. And I've ended up in places that's like, how did I get here? Because I was living so unconsciously, just doing things that I didn't want to do because they were scary.
yeah,
You got a
yeah.
visitor.
My house is full of
Oh.
painters and tradies. It's like this is the only section I have of the house that's not interrupted in. So sorry, ladies.
No, don't
He's going to
apologize.
be on camera now. He's going to be going, oh, no.
I I wanted to kind of add to what you guys were saying, where I really, I don't know, I guess like it's something that I really value in others when I watch them choose that. And I think it's
Mm,
a really drawing trait. Like people, I meet a lot of people like that when I'm traveling, because a lot of like a lot of the people that I meet are kind of taking life out on a limb. That's not the right saying, but you know what I mean. Like
taking
they're
chances.
going out on a limb and making a big jump and traveling and in other countries alone or things like that, and choosing a very courageous life path. And it's a really easy way to make friends when you're like out there falling off the same face of a cliff, like we're both making that
Yes.
same jump. And I think it's a really good way to make friends when I don't know, you kind of attract it when you make a courageous choice. I find that when I do that, I also attract more people in my life that are on a similar path or like similar values. And I think it's just it's a really amazing magical thing. And like, I don't know, I think a lot of people, like when I think of courage over comfort, I immediately go, oh, like that's a big that's a big thing, but it really doesn't
Mm.
have to be like a big choice. You don't have to fly to another country or like do something massive. Sometimes, like, honestly, sometimes for me, choosing courage over comfort is literally just going up and like brushing my teeth and being outside and going outside and existing in life that day, because really what I want to do is just crumple up in a ball and lay in bed.
Yeah,
And I,
correct. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's like it can be something really big or it can be something really
Yeah.
small, and it's like choosing your courage for today, or like choosing today, what is my courage over comfort? And it can be something so small, like that it doesn't
Mm.
even, like, your ego might want to be like, oh, that doesn't really count, or that's not big enough, that's not good enough. But I think if you make a choice every day to do a little thing, it grows and it snowballs. And then the next
Hmm.
day, you might find something, bigger, or like, I don't know, consistency is key with these sorts of things. And I think it's just such a big challenge to live life courageously that we kind of get caught up in it. It's like, what's the biggest thing I can do? What's the scariest challenge to overcome? What's the biggest hurdle? But honestly, like, I don't know. I think I say this because now that I'm in the other country, I've made that jump moving to the UK. I'm just kind of like, now that I'm here, I've been enjoying being in bed, watching movies, like at my grandparents' house. And I judge myself for it for like at least a couple weeks. I've been here a month now, but I'm kind of at the stage where it's like, well, I'm about to go off again on a new adventure. I'm going to Scotland, and I'm actually really glad that I've taken the time to just not do anything and
Mm.
let my grandparents fuss over me and make me food, and like it's been actually really, really cool, and I won't get this very often. It's like just take a breath, take a break. Sometimes courage, it doesn't have to be like big a big step. Like sometimes it really is just something so small. And yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the value that I'm learning in it at the moment for me.
Yeah. And you're
I
right,
love
Juliet.
that
It's
view.
the small steps and being consistent in taking those small steps leads to such great things. Like you said, it compounds over time, and consistency does compound. So it is for some people that are going through anything. It could be, let's take someone who's going through depression or anxiety. Getting up, like you said, brushing your teeth, washing your face, and actually getting out of bed is courage. Facing the day is courage. Or going into that meeting that you've been dreading to go into, because you're just not up to par, or you're not wanting to or feeling it, and just sitting there is courage. Just those little small steps that give you that courage. And I think what society does play, and our culture does play so much heavily on how we see courage. We're not encouraged to be courageous from a
Mm.
young age. Our parents may have said to us, "Oh yeah, you can do that," or "Give it a go," or but the real core of courage, like I said, is just dropping that facade. And we all have it.
Mm.
We wear that mask. And Brené talks about we put this mask on, and then it takes forever to take it off. And when we do take it off, some of us don't even recognize ourselves. And I think that's
Mm.
key, because some of us look in the mirror and say, I don't really know who you are. So how do I expect somebody else to know who I am if I don't know who I am, in a sense?
Yeah.
So it does take courage to slowly be vulnerable and shed the pieces of armor. And, vulnerability is a whole nother topic. I've done quite a few radio shows on it, and authenticity. And I think, Claude, I think yesterday we were talking about it starts with, self-love, like we said, and also self-worth. You know, where do we get our self-worth from? Do we look for it in
Mm.
validation, like in validation from outside? And many young girls, and I know we've spoken about this on the radio, on the podcast before, many young girls look for validation outside of themselves. They look outside, as in Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, that's their validation of self-worth. Do I look like this? Because if I don't, then I don't have good self-worth and I need to fix myself. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Juliette? I mean, you're younger than Claudia and I.
Oh, yeah. It's actually, I think it's a bit terrifying. I feel very lucky because I think my age group, it's still very prominent, don't get me wrong, but I think we just missed that like major major wave that's kind of taking over now. Like, our brains have developed enough, people my age, girls my age, where we kind of are realizing we're old enough now to realize, oh, that's not really real. And we're kind of breaking that barrier. And I think a lot of us are, you know, not choosing to not really believe in the stereotypes and like succumbing to all the beauty standards. It's still a major issue in my age group. I'm not saying that. But compared to the younger girls that I see, it's actually like terrifying. Like TikTok is their life and Instagram is their life. And they're on their phone talking all the time to friends, taking photos of everything. Like I see it and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And it really scares me of how these girls and boys as well are going to grow up because that that's a child's brain that's developing with these like standards. It's quite literally insane. And I think I've come to a place where I've realized, and this is a message that I want to spread through the podcast, through my own personal social media, through the podcast social media, that the real beauty, as cheesy as it sounds, is enhancing your own personal qualities, whether they're like your positive traits, whether they're quote unquote attractive or not. I think like this is physical, this is used for physical and for personal, emotional personality, any sort of trait that we hold. Like, even if we're just talking about our physical features, we have these like crazy standards as women that we all know. Like, you have to be curvy, but not too curvy, and you can't be curvy in the stomach. You have to be curvy on, your hips and your breasts, and nowhere else. And that's like not biologically, fathomable for most women. And then you have your face and cheekbones and anti-aging. Like this, honestly, there's like 11-year-olds buying anti-aging stuff from like makeup stores,
Yeah.
and it's insane. And it's actually damaging their skin.
Hmm.
Like,
Mm.
and what I've learned is I'm never going to chase a beauty standard because it's changed, like even just in the past 10 years, even from when I remember being 15 and even caring about beauty standards, because that was the age I even started caring about beauty. Even in that 5, 6 years, the standard has changed every month, like almost like it's insane. It's like a standard that I can never catch up to. No woman can catch up to it. So instead, I'm just gonna do what I actually like and put jewelry on that I actually enjoy wearing and put makeup on that makes me genuinely feel pretty, not because I see it on other women, but because that's what I actually feel good in. And I don't know, I think there needs to be new solid trends, if you will. I don't want it to
Mm.
be a trend. I want it to be a long-standing thing where we just enhance our own unique qualities. Like I have big, huge eyes, so let's make them bigger. Or I have, like not being scared of the unusual traits. Like I have a no like I have a beautiful nose, but it's not like the typical beautiful nose. But let's just like put blush on it. Let's just put all the intention. Like I don't know. I think that
Mm.
should be the new. beauty standard is just like owning our own features and not being scared of these things. Because honestly, right now the trend is like heaps of blush and like no highlighter and like cutesy bows everywhere. But like 2 years, 3 years ago, it was all about like bronzing up everything. Everything has to be like golden and shimmering and like huge lips and all this. It's like, and women pay thousands of dollars on these surgeries. It's just insane. And now it's not like the same thing anymore. It's impossible. And it scares me. It really does. Sorry, that was a really big tangent, but it really does scare me with how like we really take it on board as women. It's like it shouldn't be. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and I
just
think
crazy.
the more we as people, like, because there's beauty standards for men too, the more we put our attention into it, the more money we spend on it, the more we believe in it, the bigger it grows and the faster
Mm,
it moves. And that's, I think, part of courage over comfort in my mind is sometimes to just take a step back and, like you said, Juliette, like see what's important to you. If you have big eyes and they're important to you, then show that off, because that's how you can walk through the world in your life feeling great, feeling amazing about yourself because that you love your eyes, that you love putting makeup on your eyes and enhancing your eyes. So that's how you have decided that you want to feel great about yourself, not because society is telling you to, but because you enjoy it and you find that really fun. And that's what I'm talking about, going towards the things that you want rather than away from the things that you're afraid of. So, if society is trying to push you in a direction, um, because it's asking you to spend more money on beauty products, it's asking you to spend more money on um, plastic surgery or losing weight, because that was my thing in the 80s and 90s was weight control, because everything was about size zero and lollipop heads, and I mean, it was huge, and it was all through the magazines and on television and in movies, was size zero, size zero, size zero. And it was an impossible standard. And it is designed that way,
mm,
to be impossible and to be unattainable. And this is the thing that we need to remember, is that when these beauty standards become a thing and become popular, they are unattainable by design, because you're constantly chasing it.
mm,
You're constantly chasing being thinner, being more beautiful, being taller, being shorter, being rounder, being slimmer, all of these trendy things that we're supposed to be following are keeping us constantly in a state of stress.
yeah.
And when we decide, like you said, Nancy, to be ourselves and be vulnerable and chuck all of that stuff by the wayside and say, enough, I'm not going to be what other people want me to be anymore. I'm going to stop all of this. I'm going to look at myself. I'm going to look at what makes me happy. And that takes a level of vulnerability too, being able to admit to yourself that I've been living, because I've done it and I'm in the middle of it right now. I've been living a life that doesn't make me happy. I've been living it for other people because of the shoulda, woulda, couldas. I'm going to stop doing that now. And that takes courage, because people come to expect things from you because of the way you've always been. And so now you've decided, this doesn't make me happy anymore. I'm going to change and I'm going to choose
Mm,
happiness for myself. then you start to get scared because you think, are all the people in my life going to turn their backs on me because I'm not the same person that I was before? I'm now choosing to make myself happy. That takes courage and
Mm.
authenticity to be able to admit, I've been doing it this way for so many years and now I'm stopping because it's not making me happy. I'm stopping it now. And
You're disrupting the apple cart. That's what you're doing.
yes, exactly. And you're a
You're actually getting
troublemaker. That's yeah, you're a troublemaker now. And that's what I mean, that phrase
yeah,
always
yeah.
remind me of my mother, because she would always say, if I wanted to do something that was for me, she'd say, you're such a troublemaker, Claudia. You're causing trouble now.
Yeah.
And I was like,
You know
oh, I
what you're
better get
doing?
back into line.
You're actually, what you're really doing is you getting out of your comfort zone is disrupting their comfort zone.
Hmm.
Exactly.
That's all you're doing. You're not rocking the boat, well, kind of, but you're not being cheeky. You're actually disrupting their comfort zone. So their
Mm.
whole physiology, their whole environment, their whole world is turned upside down.
Yeah.
And because they don't want to get out of their comfort zone, they don't want you to get out of yours.
Yeah. Because we're in a
100%.
world of comparison, you know,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's so funny that you rocking the boat, like rocking the boat is literally just us deciding to be who we are, like, or just to like
Authentic.
They're
not,
being honest.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a
getting
bit,
honest with yourself, getting
Mm.
honest with yourself, really, if you think about it, is mental health. You're
mm,
looking after your mental health when you are being honest with yourself. And to do that sometimes looks scary from the outside because, oh, she's changing. Oh, she's not the person I thought she was. Oh my goodness, or he is not the person I thought he was. What's happening here? And so when you're growing up in yourself, it looks like growing apart from everybody else.
Hmm.
mm,
But what it's doing, because energy is contagious, we know this. We know this.
Yeah, we're all connected.
Humans know this. When you are in a high energy place with people, everybody, it catches on. And it's the same. Well, it's the same. They say misery loves company, because low energy catches on. And when your energy is changing, when you're changing yourself to become more authentic, that people see that and they become confused. What's happening here? This isn't usual. This is unusual. This
Yeah,
is so unusual and I don't like it.
yeah.
mm,
It's very rare that I've heard of um, particularly couples who are growing, who, when their kids, like for me, my kids are growing up and they don't need as much as of my attention. And so my attention can come back onto myself and
Hmm.
I can start now looking at my life and changing things for the better for me. And that can look very scary to my children and to the people who love me.
Yeah, that's right. Because as a mum, you devote all your time to your kids and your family.
Mm,
mm,
yeah,
That's just how it rolls. For years you do that, and you, which is fine. I mean, everyone has a choice. Some people don't, but some people choose to be at home and be a stay-at-home mum, which is fantastic. Their job is amazing. Some people choose
yeah,
to juggle both. But when your kids do grow up and you've lived the life where you've been there for them and you've given them everything, and generally you put them first. I mean, let's talk about
yeah,
that. Women or men, depends what they do. They are stay-at-home dads. Put their families first.
yeah,
When their kids get older and a mum takes on a career, that also is out of the child's comfort zone. And you do see some kids muck up when the mum
yeah,
goes back to work
yeah,
because the attention isn't on the child or the children.
yes,
And then mum is getting a career again, and she's finding herself. In that, she's finding herself. And it's courage too, because it's easy
Yeah.
to stay in the comfort zone, isn't it? Just stay at home, be a stay-at-home mom. If I need to get a job, I'll just get something simple. But going back and actually having a career and
Mm.
finding maybe your passion or your dream or pursuing something that you really wanted to do when the kids were younger takes courage. And again,
Mm.
women are, there's a lot of backlash for women. You know, some of the things I hear, my oldest daughter's having a baby in 6 weeks, her first child. And she said, Mum, some of the stuff that is on social media about women and being pregnant and the expectations after they have a baby and going back to work and all that, she said to me, it is just disgusting.
Mm.
Mm.
It really is. And again, here we go with what society expects you to be, puts you in that little bubble. But I want to be authentically me and I want to be this. And they absolutely just trash that person. She said the comments, they've actually had to remove a person off social media because the comments got so heated that that person was um, talking, is saying disgusting words to a complete stranger in
Yeah.
Mm.
comments, keyboard warriors, right? So she said it's a society that's and a culture that just wants to keep you like this, but you have your own opinions and that's not welcomed.
Yeah.
So it's
I think
everywhere.
I
Yes.
think the internet is this really strange, it's really, really strange because it really is just a bunch of strangers who have this power to say whatever they want without a face. And you would think like that on paper, like to me as an observer, would be like, oh, well, then, like, why would I ever care what they're saying? Like, it is a
Yeah.
random stranger saying whatever they want without the courage of showing their face, which is why they're saying, I don't know this person. Why do I care? But words hurt and they hold a lot of power. Words really hurt. And I think that's why the internet is this weird space with, and why, like, the bullying, cyberbullying and beauty standards and all that really works, and why all these women and also men are getting so much pressure on like looking a certain way, posting content when they're only looking like posting on Instagram when they're, edited or um at the best angle or all this. Like, why are we really worried? Because the people who are commenting, horrible stuff, we don't know. Like, it makes no psychological sense. But like, here we all are. I'm not like I'm the same. Like, if I got a hate comment, it can affect me,
Mm,
but it's just so odd why it matters so deeply. Like, it's just this
Mm.
weird, weird, weird space. And yeah, women in pregnancy, coming out of pregnancy, of just giving birth, is actually like some of the most horrific expectations, like, and honestly, some of the worst stuff ever. I really, it just makes me so sad because women are like expected to get back in shape after a couple weeks. And I see these videos of like 3 week postpartum update, and they're like, you know,
yep.
so unrealistic. Like they're toned abs again or whatever. Or like you even had, this is actually quite a good example, but it was this woman who was who had gotten pregnant and given birth for the first time, and she was saying, I was never told about all the stuff pregnant women go through, all the
Mm.
like, I went into this pregnancy expecting to bounce back straight away. She like maintains a very healthy lifestyle and is a bit of a probably a bit of a health nut, if you will. But she gained a lot of weight through pregnancy because that's very natural. And she was like, I don't know how I've gained all this weight, and it's like my goal to lose it. But and it was like really weird because she was like, it's my goal to lose it, but I want to lose it in a healthy way. And so she's documenting it, and it's this really beautiful, like, she's finding her balance where she is trying to get her pre-pregnancy body back, which in itself is like a little bit, like, but she's doing it in this way where it's actually a really good mirror of, um, like not trying to like she's breaking these like psychological patterns, and she's like opening up to like being soft and kind and like trying to figure out how to do this in a good way. And it's like a really cool way that she's documenting it, where she's actually telling people, I didn't know this was a thing, but now you have to know, and like really TMI stuff about like pregnancy and all that. And so I think this is the kind of way forward in my eyes. And I'm seeing it more and more on the internet, is people being honest and courageous and showing their body in ways that aren't flattering or, typical of what you would see on social media. And I'm seeing it more and more and more and more um, online. And I don't know, that makes me happy. And that makes me
Yeah.
feel like we're heading in a good direction.
Yeah, I agree, because when I got pregnant, um, so much judgment. I experienced so many people, well, for one, touching my belly without permission. I was
What is
not
with that?
I was not ready for that. And I did it to someone the other day, the same thing. And it was like, oh, Claudia, what are you doing? You didn't ask. Thankfully, she's a friend and she was okay with it. But it was just shocking to me when I was pregnant, that because it doesn't happen. People don't just touch your belly for no reason. Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's like it's like I think it's a human instinct to go in and just want to touch the belly because they know there's a baby inside.
Mm.
So yeah, so there was that. And then the judgment as well. Oh, what are you going to have drugs when you have the baby? Things like that. Are you going to breastfeed? And it's like, these are all really personal questions that really are none of your business what I
Mm-hmm.
decide to do, because it's my body and my baby. And my intention is to raise this child as healthy as possible. That is what I will do. That's the intention for my baby, is to have a healthy, happy baby. And as long
Correct.
as my intention is that, and I'm not, neglecting or abusing this child, what more do you need to know, really? And they don't ask the father, what kind of dad are you going to be? How much time are you going to spend with your child? Are you going to change nappies? Are you going to feed the baby? Are you going to be there when the baby's crying? Are you going to be there when the baby's teething? They don't get any of that. Well, that was my experience anyway. My husband didn't get any of that. And the thing was, when he was there with the child, and when he was, say, I was sick and he was looking after the baby, it was like, oh, you're such a good father. Oh, Claudia, you're so lucky that you have a husband who's involved with the children. Oh, and I was like, hello, they're his kids too. Like, like the the expectation and the judgment on women when it comes to pregnancy and children is very, very, even today, it's
Yeah.
very, very different to what men experience. Out there in the public, what happens at home is different. That's between the husband and the wife. But out there in society, when you're, with family and friends and with strangers even, the expectation and the judgment is very, very different. And that shocked me to the core, because I didn't know that that was a thing. And so being authentic in the face of something like that takes so much courage, because you're trying to push through a standard that has been held in society for decades, for generations. It's slowly changing, but it was something that it was like a brick wall that hit me in the face. and and choosing to ignore that and having many, many conversations with people about it was exhausting. It was like a full-time job trying to ignore it and trying to rise above it and trying not to listen to it and trying to cultivate my own path with my children. And so, I completely understand the pressure, particularly on young girls when it comes to beauty standards. I understand the pressure because it's a relentless and it's so huge and it takes so much courage. It's going to take your generation, Juliette, of girls to understand it, to see it coming and to say, no, that's not the path that I want to take. I'm not going to inject my lips. I'm not going to have plastic surgery to, you know, to give me a smaller nose or whatever it is. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to love the features that I've been given naturally. And oh my goodness, there is so much beauty in that. There is so much, there is so much like courage and beauty and meatiness in women who do that. And for the people in society to start seeing it that way, how much courage it takes for a person to say, no, I'm not going to succumb to the standards that are being dished up to me. I'm going to walk my own path.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stand up in the face of all of this and I'm just going to be myself. So much beauty.
Yeah.
And us as women, like I just want to applaud the women who are doing that, because I want to be the support that I didn't have. I want to be that. I want to be that for those women. I want to be, the woman who says, age gracefully, that's what I'm doing. And kudos to you for doing it. I mean, just the fact that I don't dye my hair anymore, that was a huge one for me, because there are times when I go out with my son who's 14 and people think I'm his grandmother.
Oh,
Because of
wow.
the grey. Because of the
Good
grey.
on you, Claude.
And it's like,
Yeah,
hang on a minute, have you seen my face? Like, okay, I might have grey hair, but I have
you
good
have to
skin.
embrace it.
Like, look at
Yeah.
my skin.
I'm a young grandma.
Yeah. It's like, wow. And to then go, okay, no, I'm not going to dye my hair back. Let them think I'm the grandmother. And then when I tell them, actually, I'm his mum, let them be embarrassed.
Yep. Yep. Assumptions, right? So in
Yes.
society, we make assumptions all the time. I wanted to talk about what you both of you spoke about, um, these groups that we have, the keyboard warriors and just
Yeah.
people in general, when they assume. We as a human race want to belong, and we automatically think, if I just fit in, I'll belong.
Mm,
So if
yeah.
I'm in the in crowd, if I'm bullying with everybody else, or if I'm just going with the flow, and we see it quite often, young girls, even in the workplace, I just want to fit in. What we don't understand, that's actually not belonging in a sense. And it's definitely not connection. We think it's connection because we all want to connect. Being authentic and being ourselves, and obviously the courage that it takes to be vulnerable, that is connection, that is belonging. When I can sit down with my partner or my best friend and say, this is how I'm feeling at the moment, and I didn't appreciate what happened, and really just open my heart and become vulnerable, and that person is able to meet me at that space, that's connection.
Yeah.
Now, we don't
Yeah.
have that in our society, unfortunately. Very rare, and very few people are able to hold space for another person, first of all. We struggle
Yeah.
with holding space for each other because we are a race that's hurt. hurt people hurt others, healed people heal others. That's why
Mm.
we see a lot of light workers, because they're all about opening their heart and healing. We need to be a society that we need to start to heal. And I think this is what happens when you heal yourself and you go out in the world. You're less likely to hurt others. You're less likely to assume. You're less likely to backlash. You're less likely to get angry. You're less likely to do all those things that we just spoke about, and more likely to be compassionate and have empathy. And we
Mm,
struggle in our society to have empathy for the pregnant woman that is
yeah.
struggling, or empathy for the woman that's just had a baby and is trying to, be a wonderful and devoted new mum. Yet the expectations is that she must have, a meal on the table,
Yeah.
making some money, her body intact, and a healthy baby. So we
Yeah.
don't have empathy, and we can't get to empathy. Okay. We can't get there unless we're willing to be open and start the healing process and really meet each other at the same level that you would want someone to meet you. We often think, we're judgmental. We are a race that's judgmental. We often judge everybody, but we don't know what someone's going through and what's happening in their life. But we just judge them. We just think, well, you're not up to my standards, because I also want to fit in, and I've got to look a certain way and I've got to behave a certain way, because I'm unwilling to drop my armory. I'm unwilling to be vulnerable. I'm unwilling to be authentic, because that scares me, and I might actually find shame there. I might
Yeah.
find that there's shame there for me, because nobody wants to look shame in the face, do they? No one wants to
No.
say, I'm perceived as weak, or especially men. Men have that thing. Shame for men is weakness.
Mm.
It's huge. It's huge, huge, huge. But women want to fit in. They want to belong, you know. So absolutely, it's not connection, being vulnerable, dropping your armory, and it's a process. And we need to be
Mm.
more empathetic to everybody and open our hearts to the possibility of that. And I think, yeah, as a human race, we could learn a lot from each other.
Yeah, I think one of the one of the great outcomes of dropping your armor is gaining the ability to empathize.
Mm.
Because once you are vulnerable, if you carry judgment into a situation with that vulnerability, you're going to get attacked. You can't walk into a relationship or a conversation, whatever it is, without your armor on and be judgmental. It just doesn't work that way. So it's like a catch 22. It's a beautiful um like realization that if you are wanting to be accepted, you have to be more willing to accept. It's like, you know, it's a cycle. Vulnerability encourages vulnerability. Judgment encourages more judgment. So you can choose. Do you want judgment in your life, or do you want to be authentic and have authentic relationships? So I
Yeah,
think,
trust comes into there.
yeah, yeah. And also, if you're being vulnerable with somebody and you're choosing authenticity and that person can't meet you in that space, then what that's when you have to then question, what am I doing in the presence of this person? He or she can't meet me in this vulnerability, then I need to find somebody who can, or I need to express to this person, this is what I need right now, and let them decide.
Mm.
Can I be with this person? Can I be in relationship with this person if they're willing to keep being vulnerable, which scares the crap out of me?
Yeah. And I
And
think a
maybe
lot of
they will
times,
decide for themselves. Yeah.
sometimes you've got to not in the sense walk away, but in judge the environment that you're about to walk in. If you notice it's that person, you can't first of all, if you can trust that person, okay?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the trust is made up in small moments. It's not just one
Yes.
big thing. And betrayal which is different from trust, which I learnt recently, is looking at that person in that moment where they're sad or they need something, and either betrayal is walking away and avoiding that, saying, I can't
Mm,
be bothered with this today, or I don't want to hear her nag, or she's always depressed, or she's always down, and walking away. That's
mm,
betrayal.
yes.
Not trusting someone is a series of small moments that that person has let you down, and what you've confided and been vulnerable in them, you don't see it as a safe space.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And that is so hard to face, because if you've built a life with someone, or if you've, it could be a family member, it could be a mother or a father, you could be in relationship with that person since the day you were born, or you could have chosen to marry that person, or you could have chosen to have that person as a girlfriend or boyfriend. And so now you're looking at this person who has been in my life for years, or that I chose to be with. I'm now seeing them in with fresh eyes, because I've made a change, and I've made a change that I feel is going to deepen the relationship, is going to, in the end, benefit both of us. And that person can't or won't, whatever it is, meet me in that space. That is one of the hardest things, because it's like, where do we go from here? If I'm going to continue to take off my armor, if I'm going to continue being vulnerable, if I'm going to continue living an authentic life, how is that going to work with somebody who doesn't want to play in that space, and will consistently turn their back and say, I can't do this today. I can't listen to this today. I can't see you in your vulnerable state. It's triggering for me. I can't take off my armor. I can't meet you there.
Mm.
You know, that's like where the decisions need to be made. Am I going to
Mm,
continue um, with this person, or am I going to one day turn around and say, okay, I can't continue because it's at a stalemate. It's a stalemate with this situation, and I've been in that situation with family members who, if I'm vulnerable with them, it's sure, I know it's going to end up me being hurt, because the family member can't meet me in that place.
Mm.
So over and over and over again, it's happened. So I had to walk away. I had to, because if I was going to continue being the person that I am, it wasn't working with that,
You got to
mm,
be
in that
honest.
situation. Yeah.
Honest with
And
yourself.
that's self-love. Like, that sounds so horrible, that you had to let go of somebody who meant so much to you, and was, you grew up with them. They were in your life since you were born. But if you're going to be authentic, and you're going to love yourself, and you're going to have the things in your life that you need for your mental health and your heart to grow and um be feel loved, and you're not going to betray yourself, because I think staying because of loyalty is a self-betrayal, because you are now saying, I'm not going to live to 100% of my potential because I'm loyal to this person and in this situation. So I'm going to stunt my growth because that person's my brother, or that person's my mother, or father, or whatever, or husband or wife, and
Yeah.
that's a self-betrayal. And I think that um part of this conversation has to include how we treat ourselves, and how we show up for ourselves when we're in that vulnerability, and when we decide to take off our armor. Because if we're deciding to take off our armor and we can't show up for ourselves,
mm,
we're going to be constantly putting ourselves in situations around those people where we are vulnerable, we don't have our armor on, and the other person, it doesn't care and can't meet us there. And so our relationships are not fulfilling. Our relationships are sometimes hurting us.
Right.
And I think that's
Very
part, you know,
correct.
that's a huge part of this conversation, is how we can be, like Juliette said to me the other day, Mum, be kinder to yourself. You know, be you can be really hard on yourself. You can be mean. You're mean to yourself sometimes. So how, if I'm mean to myself, how am I going to be vulnerable? So I have to look at that. I have to really look at that and say, right, how am I going to be nicer and kinder to myself so that I can trust myself to take off the armor
It
and
all
have the
starts with self-love.
relationships that I want? Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to practice self-love. And
Yeah.
I tell just about everyone and my colleague as well. We run the 2-day workshop and we say you need to do 10 of those just to start with. 10 heal your lives to start with. And we do them. I've done two, it's been a year now, two in 1 year. And I'll go to anyone's workshop as long as I heal myself, because there's always something comes up. Now in this situation, in any situation, like for you at the moment, you're going through a situation, you are discovering triggers and
Yes.
traumas, emotional traumas that are coming up for you. This needs heal your life, because you need to look at what that is, go to the core of it and find out why you're like this, heal it so it doesn't repeat again. And this is why
Yeah.
Yeah.
we repeat our problems, because we don't heal them. So
Yeah.
it does start with self-love. It is the core for everything. It is the foundation. When you lay bricks on in a, sorry, concrete in a house,
The
self-love is
foundation.
the concrete. Yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
And then the pillars of that, you could have pillars of trust, you could have, your values are another pillar. And that's what you build your whole self on, really. What
Yeah.
do I value the most? Where is, my trust for that person, or whatever you believe in, that is part of you, is your pillars to yourself. But self-love will
Yeah.
always be the foundation.
Yeah. So
And
true.
it's
And
a
that
journey.
brings up, yeah. And that brings up another point, actually, that I think we should talk about, is that when we love ourselves, when we give ourselves that self-respect, we are allowing others to love us in the way that we need to be loved. And also, not only that, we can show up for them in the way they need to be loved. Because I know in some of my relationships, the self-harm that people do, the things, the coping mechanisms that they have learned in their lives to get by and to survive, some of them are so dysfunctional, and because they learn them as children and they don't see how that they are not working as an adult, but they cling to it so tightly because they're afraid of letting go. And this is the vulnerability we're talking about. They're scared of allowing themselves to break free of these coping mechanisms. We're talking drugs, alcohol. For some people, it's sex. For some people, it's work. Like all of these, what they have created as pillars in their life to build their foundations with, are keeping people out. They're pushing people away. It's hard to love somebody with an addiction. It's really hard to love a person who will constantly choose self-medication over communication, over connection, over spending time with their family, things like that. And so when you say, okay, enough's enough, I love myself enough to stop these coping mechanisms, and I'm going to grow as a person, and I'm going to get healthy, and mentally healthy, physically healthy, then that self-love that you're giving to yourself allows others to love you. It invites love into your
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And so being in relationship with that person is so much deeper and so much better. It's easier to love. And I mean, in some ways it's not, but in a lot of ways it's easier to love someone who loves themselves. And I'm speaking from personal experience. So it's like
Yeah.
doing yourself a favor, but also doing everybody in your life a favor too. Loving yourself is loving
Mm.
others.
Yeah. Wow. We've reached time somehow.
We,
Went
we
by
could talk
so
forever, right?
quick.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's a really good place to leave because that's like, I don't know, we've hit some like pretty massive points in this
Yeah, it's a
conversation.
lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
So yeah, I'm kind of like a bit winded from this conversation. Yeah. But thank you so much, Nancy. Honestly,
My
like
pleasure. Thank you.
yeah, this was such a amazing conversation, honestly.
Yes. Yeah.
So I hope to have you on again at some point.
Love
Well,
to be
we
on
hope,
again.
me and um yeah, like I'm a bit like, whoa.
Yeah. You're going to go to bed now, Juliette, which is good because this stuff might
Yeah, I was
start to
thinking,
process. Yeah.
thank you to everyone watching, and we'll see you next
Mm,
week for our next episode.
yeah.
Um, yeah, bye. Wait, I need to find the
Thank
button
you.
first. Here we go.
Bye bye.
So yeah.